What's going on, guys? I think this is kind of a fun, interesting time of the year, but I didn't want to do like a mock draft. I didn't want to do like a bunch of college basketball and pretend to be an expert because I don't follow college basketball as much as I used to. But what I did want to do was kind of go with that theme of projections and like what we think is going to happen. So to add some structure today, I do have the ADPs of the best ball up, and I do think like they are interesting not just for best ball, but for like the outlook of fantasy football. Whether you want to take certain guys, whether you think like, oh yeah, these are the top 5 quarterbacks that I would expect in a week 1 salary breakdown. So I just thought it would be interesting to kind of see where DraftKings and where like the fantasy industry is on some of these players, on some of these rookies, and then like how they basically interacted with the free agency and what that meant for their average draft position. And then we can go wherever we want after that. Like if you want to bring up an NBA topic or there is a water cooler moment in the offseason that I'm missing in either sport. I just didn't want to have it so driven on sports that we didn't know a lot about. And honestly, Donnie, I feel like the mock drafts are fun, but they die on the vine very quickly. Like as soon as the NFL draft is happening, like they're pretty much dead. And then who's ever right up on the mock draft? They're kind of fun to have a like almost an experimental like laugh at, but I never take them serious. Even the people who know a lot about the draft, I just feel like it's a lot of guesswork.
Right. But I mean, are we just going to look at these rankings to start? Like, because I was looking by position and I found quarterback very interesting.
Yeah, like I thought maybe you'd having like debates if we had some natural ones. To me, the first thing that popped up in my mind when I thought about quarterbacks was Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think I would have this totally flipped.
I mean,
or do you think it's close?
I think it's close, but my big thing is their ADP shot up. All quarterbacks really, because last year we didn't have quarterbacks go until the very, very end of the second round at earliest. I think the ADP of the top quarterback last year was like 33. I know it's going to go down as it goes because of people drafting right now. Probably are taking more shots than you should.
Well, for example, like not everyone plays best ball, so like we can translate this to a lot of other elements of fantasy football, or just like the overall enjoyment of the sport. I just think Lamar Jackson has so many more outs to have a good year, given the weapons around him. Derrick Henry takes a lot off his plate if he needs to. Like they got Hopkins. Like I feel like that team is more positioned to have success. But maybe Josh Allen needs the fantasy output. Like the Buffalo Bills basically need Josh Allen. Like he is the engine of that team. So maybe from a fantasy perspective and a points perspective, even on a weekly basis like DFS, you would be more likely to pay it for Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, it really is tough to say. What I am seeing, which is interesting as well.
Yeah.
As of right now, I cannot find. Oh wait, yes. So Travis Hunter is listed as a wide receiver right now on DraftKings.
Yeah, I think you'll get the Taysom Hill kind of treatment with DraftKings.
It is interesting though, because he is going into the draft as a DB, technically speaking.
Yeah.
Obviously we expect him to get some offensive work, but there are players in the NFL that do get, offensive work that play mostly defense. DraftKings, I'm assuming this is to protect them just in case it's a heavy offense. Like if he goes to the Patriots and the Patriots just like you're playing receiver.
And I think this is a thing because you can draft this early if you want to do a best ball draft. So I do think it will be like Taysom Hill where it's like we're only going to count his offensive stats. They're not going to count anything else.
Right, they can't count anything else because it's just
right. So if you're going to project that ahead of time, you're projecting him as a wide receiver. Like if you take him high, then you're taking him as a wide receiver, and you think he'll succeed.
As of right now, his ADP is like in the top 100, which is crazy for a guy who might not even play offense.
Yeah.
But,
which is a risk. I mean, like for example, we took Justin Fields last year on the hope that he was going to become the starting quarterback for the Steelers. He did not, and so we lost out of that projection. But we drafted him in a position where he wasn't yet being drafted as a starter. So if we were right about that, we would have benefited greatly.
And we did benefit. He had a couple good weeks for us.
Right.
Like,
we knew we were going to get
more than most of the 15th round picks that you got.
I think that's a good point about Hunter, though. You know you're going to get something out of his wide receiver, outcome. You just don't know what that's going to be. And, I do think like in best ball or just like these kind of drafts, the more you can kind of take stands on rookies, the better your team is. I know last year we took a chance on Daniels, and now look at him. He's the number 3 quarterback.
Yeah,
we got him, I think, the 10th round last year, right?
You got him in the 9th or 10th round, yeah, end of the 9th, start of the 10th. So, I mean, that was something we got really lucky, and it's not lucky in the sense of we expect him to have a good fantasy year, but the fact that nobody else was really on it to get him as low as we did.
Tell me if I'm wrong, because you're not as much of a college guy as I am. Do you think like that's a trend that you should take a few chances on rookies? Like, because to me, like that just seems like a good value in DraftKings or these kind of projections is to take a chance on a rookie that's not even on a team yet.
Depending on the team, I would say yes. Like,
yeah,
if you for some reason do draft this early, which I think would be kind of insane, but if you drafted like Genty at pick 17, which is where he's projected right now,
right?
You don't even know what team he's going to. That's insane to me. I don't know how you do that.
You get so much value though, because once he has a team, that changes so much, right? Or do you feel
it
like
could drop him tremendously?
Yeah.
But like last year we got the Raiders tight end, his name's Brock Bowers. We got him pretty low.
Yeah.
And it's like we did very lucky at the rookies we projected last year. Like we did extremely well with the rookies we drafted.
I do think you got to take some chances on the rookies. Like
I'd like to take shots on those not later round receivers, but in the sense of the rookies like Burden. He's a decent guy I'm interested in this year just because he's such a good athlete.
He's such a good athlete. That's a great point. You want to take chances on rookies that have athletic profiles. I think that's why Hunter is such a talking point. For example, a rookie that didn't work out for us, but I was still very high on and don't think we made a mistake, was J.J. McCarthy. Because when we took J.J., it was right around the time where we had to decide between J.J. was basically the last viable starter last year in that range, or it was like AOC. And obviously AOC had more opportunities to do, he scored more fantasy points, but I would still take J.J. McCarthy every time in that position because at that point, you're hoping for the upside.
Well, like a guy I expect to probably be on my team a lot this year because just looking through where the rookies are ranked right now, if he stays around this spot, Isaiah Bond with pick 200, that's one of the last picks in the draft. He'll probably end up on my team.
Yeah,
like I feel like that's a good shot to take.
It is. A guy like Jackson Dart, who no one knows what he'll be because his college production and expectation were definitely lowered based on his talent. But there's a lot of people in the NFL that think like, oh, the man's got talent. The college didn't set him up well. The college didn't support his skill set. He didn't have the best wide receivers. For example, if he gets around a professional organization, we'll be able to extract that. That's a guy I would be willing to take a chance on just because I hear so many talent evaluators liking it. It could be a Johnny Manziel situation, and he doesn't thrive, but there's just so many, scouts saying that he'll have a good year that I think he's worth a shot.
Yeah, someone like that. It depends on where he ends up, but I don't really want to talk about rookies too much because we're going to be talking about them more when the draft comes along and where they actually ended up and what works. But I think it's a good point of like, we do need to take shots on some of these guys eventually.
Yeah.
I think Gov also would agree with this. The preferred shot is definitely the late round receivers. I stocked up on late round receivers last year. I had teams with 4 or 5 rookie receivers, but I got them all past round 13. And that won me a lot. That was a huge strategy that won me a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter if we're talking best ball or like daily fantasy or even DraftKings. Like I played a lot on FanDuel because I saw there was an edge. They changed a lot of their rules back to PPR. They did a lot of what I would consider upgrades. Like they upgraded their product and not enough people were catching on. the fact that they went back to PPR kind of tells you not only the league, but like fantasy is just, it's valuing pass catchers, and the league is, passing at a rate that's absurd. And so
someone's going to get hurt. So those rookies are going to have to step up eventually.
Yeah. And so I think you can't have enough wide receivers on your team. We're talking late round darts, you're taking chances on guys. I'd be way more likely to take a chance on a few more wide receivers than I would be running backs.
Right, yeah. I mean, a good example is really like last year we took a shot on Troy Franklin was the guy we had a lot of.
Yeah.
And Roman Wilson. Like, we did a lot of that. Roman Wilson barely played. I'm sure you'll end up drafting him at least once.
He's got speed.
But like, I have no doubt that Roman Wilson will be on your team at least once.
I will be honest, though, I don't really, and this is a true point, you should actually know who the offensive coordinator is, what you kind of expect from that offense. I don't like to take anyone from Arthur Smith's receiving game. I just don't. Even as much as I love DK, that is a downgrade for me.
Yeah, I mean, well, Roman Wilson's going like pick 250 right now, so
yeah,
or 220. I mean,
but we do it a
like,
lot.
Those are those guys that it's just like you got to know who you're going for. Vele, that's a guy that won for us some last year.
Yeah, I think a strategy we do a lot, Donnie, that maybe Gov doesn't do as much, or just like hates that we do it so often is tight end. And that we were talking about wide receivers and just like getting your, quarterback and pass catchers are happening at a clip that should be respected. If you could get McBride and Bowers, like at that point, you're just viewing Bowers as the wide receiver. That's what he was last year. He was used as their wide receiver one or their best receiver. We saw a couple of years ago, people were talking to Kelsey and Andrews. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to plug in the two best tight ends if the volume is there. So, like, if you're doing a DraftKings lineup and you can get Bowers and you think Trey McBride is underpriced, I do think they underpriced tight end still in daily fantasy sports. That's like a cheat code for me still is to plug a tight end in flex. Even two really cheap tight ends, like two minimum price tight ends to fit everything else around them, I've always liked that.
I'm very shocked Kelsey's still in 5. Andrews is still at 7. Those two had terrible years. Andrews, I think, has more likelihood to bounce back than Kelsey. But
see, I would flip that. Talk about like natural debates. I think they're way more likely to give the run, and they're using.
Andrews is expected to be traded on draft day.
Yeah.
So like Andrews will have a new team next year. That is almost a guarantee.
So if you had the chance to take him and you thought his talent was still there and you thought like he's going to have a bounce back year, but you didn't know the team, are you just trusting that he'll get traded to a contender, or trusting that, because he'll get traded to a contender, that it's most likely a good quarterback, it's a good situation?
I don't think that many teams, I don't see a bad team wanting a guy like Andrews. Like, there's no point of I'm trying to think of a Jacksonville going out and getting a guy like Mark Andrews at this point.
So you think there would be value, just the unknown? Like, people were like, "Oh, well, I know he's not with the Ravens."
I think it's far more likely that a team like the Rams call up and say, "Hey, what is Mark Andrews' price?" than it is for, I'm trying to think of a team that's tight end needy. That's bad, but maybe the Saints would do it.
Yeah, the Saints. Jacksonville is kind of in a questionable spot as well, having just Strange and giving up on Brent Ingram. But I do think the tight end position still, like, if you were to build a DraftKings lineup, is one of the more underrated positions based on what you could get out of the upside of it.
Dual tight end was a thing I did a lot last year. More than usual. I always liked the idea of it, but last year it just was something I did a lot more, and I happened to be like, I got it right most of the time. I got lucky enough to get the McBride games, the Bowers games together, or things like that. But I know tight ends were disappointing last year fantasy-wise. I was picking the wrong receivers a lot.
They were. I look at this tight end range, though, and I see a major drop-off. Bowers and McBride are like tier 1 wide receivers to me. You could put them as wide receivers on almost any team, and I'd be like, yeah, their catch radius, their volume, their importance in the offense, I get it. Everything else, though, has a lot of question marks. We don't know where Andrews is going. Travis Kelce's a year older. Does he even care about the regular season? Because he might be a DraftKings play where it's like, oh, if this is a marquee matchup or it's a Sunday Night Football matchup at Showdown, this is when I want to plug him in because I know we're going to get maximum effort. This is a divisional game for the Chiefs.
Is Kittle going to be a big part of the offense this year now that the changes have happened? There's a huge amount of questions right now. Can Jonnu Smith really repeat the year he had?
Right.
I don't love the tight end spot this year. I think that's a trap a lot of people will fall into. We're thinking about last year. The tight ends failed us. So now no one's going to want to draft tight ends, I imagine. Yeah. You have to find the good ones still.
I think I would have like Brendan Strange a lot higher. Like a guy that I think is young enough, athletic, and has the
right. Like Strange not being considered. Hunter Henry, he had a very good fantasy year last year.
Yeah.
I know he didn't have the touchdown upside, but the offense is better.
See, I'd be much rather likely to take a chance on a guy like Strange than I would Kelce.
Sanders is super low.
Yeah, Sanders is low too. The Penn State rookie quarterback or tight end Warren could be interesting. I know that the Jets have kind of been flirted, with that potential. Like that's a landing spot thing. But like
Michael Mayer going to get traded and be back in an offense where he's needed.
I do think like this is a position where you have to like know what format you're playing.
Yeah, you have to get tight end right this year, and I think this year will be a bounce back year for the position. We know the tight end importance is huge in the offense.
One thing, even like format wise, Daniel, like if you ask me like, do I think Travis Kelce will have a good year? Sure, but I want to pick that week by week. Like I want to say maybe he'll have a good week 1 or maybe he'll have a good week 4. But I don't know if I want to invest in him in best ball where it's
whole year.
I got to rely on him a whole year. Especially in even like a home league, like we're trying to cover like what it could be for the realistic. I just don't know if you want to do that because in home leagues, obviously name value means way more. I just not be a fan. I am a fan of Warren though from Penn State. I think he could be one of those athletic sleepers, especially if he goes to the right team. Do you think, by the way, since we're on tight end, do you think Evan Ingram will excel in Denver? Because Denver is
I think he will take on the Jimmy Graham role with Sean Payton. I think he is the perfect tight end for Sean Payton's offense. This is exactly who he wants. I expect him to have a big year.
And that could be a sleeper position because Sean Payton, when he was with Denver all the time, he's been using 3 tight ends. He hasn't really committed to one guy being the spotlight guy where
he's been looking for a while now.
He's been looking now, and I think like if you paid attention to the offseason news, this is the guy. Like I think you can trust Evan Ingram to get like number 1 workload type tight end work. I don't think we'll see a lot of Scroll. I don't think we'll see a lot of Troutman. I do think they'll work in obviously, but I think Evan is.
This is the guy he's been trying to get for a while, and it's very interesting. Another thing that's interesting, like the draft coming up, obviously we've already had a free agent sign, and he has a real wide receiver too now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ladd McConkey's going pretty high going into his second year. I know he's going to demand the ball, but do they draft another receiver? Does he miss out on, he's not going to get the same targets. I highly doubt it's going to happen. He's averaging damn near 10 targets a week, it felt like.
It's funny you mentioned him. I did not know you were going to bring up Ladd. Apparently, Jim Harbaugh really loves the tight end, the hybrid from Michigan. So this could be his like big body counterpart to that. Loveland's more of a like big slot receiver, tight end, out wide split guy. You obviously have, Ladd McConkey run all the like quick, hitters. So this could be an interesting move. But
and they also signed Mike Williams, which Justin Herbert likes the guy.
Yeah, they love it.
That does matter. Like he might have had a bad year last year, but we know that this is a guy Herbert trusts in big situations to make a good catch.
And they were having a financial like, hey man, I got to try to make money. I got to try to make the most money I can for my family. But now Mike tried that, did not get the money he thought he would get in free agency. Obviously, did not have the best couple seasons. Obviously,
well, it was only a year away. They've only been separated for a season.
It's true. Man, it feels like forever when you consider he was a free agent, and then he got traded, and like it feels
He's been on like 3 teams. I feel like.
Yeah, because he was. But I still think the talent's there, and it's again a guy that Justin trusts. They lost Palmer, which I think. See, I think Mike Williams is actually an upgrade to Justin Herbert's touchdown ratio. So like that's a guy that I would bet on. I know the last image that we saw with Justin Herbert was kind of a disappointment to in playoffs. I think that matters. Like Justin's a guy I would trust season long. I do think in a week-long kind of format, you'd have to trust the matchup. Where does Kyle Pitts end up? Because I can't quit the guy, Donnie. You got to be the rationale for me because
as long as he's with the Falcons, I'm not interested. Like if he got to change the scenery, I'd be enticed. But right now, I can't do it. I've seen him with the Falcons. This is who he is with the Falcons, and that's all that matters.
So regardless of position, is there one of those guys for you in fantasy where you're like, I just love him. I love his potential. I love what he could do. Maybe it's the right team fit. Is there a guy that like you're higher on every year that like just doesn't make sense for most people?
Every year, I mean, there's a guy like I know who I'm going to be aiming for a lot in the draft, and maybe it's my bias getting to me, but like Drake May right now is going way too low. I saw too much talent. And if that could be my quarterback 2 in a fantasy league, hell, I wouldn't be mad if he's my quarterback 1 and I got another guy later.
And in fact, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think I would want to draft him like in the next month or, probably even sooner than that since the draft's coming up. But I want to draft him before his number 1 receiver is even known. Before you guys sign Diggs or before you draft.
Well, Diggs won't play for the first month. So, like, people are going to be scared off of him no matter what.
Right. But I do feel like there's value with and May right now, especially because they don't know who his number 1 receiver is. Once that kind of becomes more widely known with rookies and stuff like that, I think his price will go up. But
I think when we find out where Nick Chubb is going, that's somebody I'm going to be interested in. Yeah, he's still a free agent. And
what makes sense for him? Like maybe you have a team name, maybe you just have a style. Like maybe you're just hoping for him. I thought about it the other day.
Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense. I think that it's a perfect Mike Vrabel running back. They have the money to give him a prove-it deal. Mm-hmm. I mean, just any team that power run. Like I know I'm saying Patriots a lot, but they're the ones who are spending right now. They're looking for talent. I mean,
yeah,
Nick Chubb has a place in the NFL. I feel like can't imagine he might just not play next year. There's definitely a world where he's a running back and they say I'm not paying a running back to be injured and not able to play anymore.
That's a good point, though. He does have a place in the league, but we're at that point where it's like he still has to be healthy. And if you're gonna give him a chance, you're giving him a chance on the idea that he can handle somewhat of a workload. To me, I mean, it just seems obvious, like of course.
I think the Chargers are a good spot, but I don't think they have the money.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs just come to mind. Everyone's going to say, well, they're talented. So, of course, you're going to, plug in a veteran kind of prove-it guy with the Chiefs.
But the Chiefs have their duo already.
You think so?
They have Hunt, who they really liked last year. He had almost 1,000 yards rushing. And they have Pacheco, who they love. We know they love Pacheco.
I can see them giving up on Pacheco.
Not when he still has a couple years left on this deal.
Maybe not.
I mean, he couldn't really play last year because of that broken leg. The last year is not who he is. He's never been a running back that I love. He won me over, yes, but last year he's that's not him.
I did have a one like wide receiver interesting point. They had Puka Nacua in the top 7. I know last year we had trouble with him even in the first round. Like we were like, is he a first rounder? Probably, but I don't really want to take him. I ended up taking him once because he fell into the second. I expect him to be the number 1, but I do think Adams eats into that workload. Do you think maybe you think Adams
he'll have 1,000 yards no matter? Puka will have 1,000-yard year.
Yeah.
Like
you think like they'll actually help each other? They'll take some pressure off.
We've seen if you have two wide receivers and the right quarterback, which Stafford can handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna work.
The
question really becomes: is Puka gonna be? Is he gonna be the next guy to like step up and have that one breakout year and be the Triple Crown guy? I think he has Triple Crown potential. Not that it's gonna really probably happen, but he has the potential to be up there in all those stats, top 5 in all those stats. So I actually like where he is going at. I've seen it now multiple years in a row. He's a clear number one. That's why you get rid of Cooper Kupp.
So if I had to hold your feet to the fire, Donnie, I had to say if you're going to play Puka or Adams more this season, and you don't know obviously, but like if I had to hold you to that prediction all year round, who do you think that would be for you?
What's their prices? Like, give me a range of what you think their price will be. Are we talking like 9K Puka versus?
I'll say this. I'll say Puka is always going to be 1,000 more than Adams.
Always going to be 1,000, but not like 1,500 more is what you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
So like I have the option to spend 8,000 on Puka or 7,1 on.
Right. Whatever it is, they could even change.
I'm playing Puka.
Yeah.
I'm playing more Puka.
Puka will be younger. He'll have the higher upside for explosion plays. Like he's way more.
I don't see a world where Adams is like 6,400 all year. Is my point. Like they're both going to be very productive.
They're going to be both very productive. I just think that Puka will be $1,000 more because he has the chance to have that breakout performance. Like he basically has a chance to score 30 or 40, where Adams might score 20 more consistently, but he won't have the big spike week.
Well, he had a couple 30 games last year, and that was with like the trouble of.
See, I think I would be more Adams because I'll just take the savings. Like I'll take the 1,000. To me, that 1,000 would mean a lot. But I tend to hang on to veteran wide receivers a lot longer than most people. I still wanted to believe.
I still love Adams. I mean, I think Adams is one of the best receivers in the league.
Yeah.
Still, not like he's obviously not in that top 10 range, but he's still up there with those guys. He can do it.
Well, you know this. A couple of years ago, I was still playing Julio Jones on the Eagles. Like whenever I see a prototype of a certain veteran wide receiver, it's hard for me to quit. Maybe that's also why I'm on Kyle Pitts, but I just think that's interesting.
Well, Kyle Pitts, like he's still too young to give up on, no matter how you look at it. But the issue is the Falcons need to give up on him. This guy needs a change of scenery. It needs to happen.
Yeah. Another one that I think is like about right, but I think I would have higher is Neighbors. I think I would have Neighbors higher.
Well, we don't know who his quarterback is yet. If it is Jameis, I would be taking Neighbors at 12 every time, probably.
So you think the moment we know his quarterback, he's gonna go up most likely?
The moment we know, like if they don't draft a quarterback in the top round, in the first round, if they don't get a quarterback, I'm assuming it's Jameis, and Jameis is going to feed him.
So
it might be ugly, it might not work, but he's gonna get targets. And
I think most people would say that Jameis is his worst case scenario. Like if he gets anyone else besides Jameis, like if he gets Sanders, or that offense just changes, it becomes more athletic, it becomes more like creative. That will help him. So even if it is Jameis, you're high in Neighbors this year. Sounds like
the fantasy world, from what I'm hearing, is high on Neighbors this year. Like
with
Jameis as quarterback, everyone expects Neighbors to just get fed like 13 targets a game.
I think that's a guy. Basically, if we looked at it, if we were actually ranking this already for our best ball, the first guy we would probably navigate is Neighbors, and I don't think it would take very much for us to convince Gov to move him up.
I don't know. Like the guys ahead of him, I like all these names.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. The only guy I'm like, I know we say this. I say this every year, but like I'm not drafting Jamar Chase after the best year he's ever going to have in his career. I'm sorry that he's not topping that. You're just not going to play better than that. So I just won't take him. I never take a guy off a career year.
Yeah.
And I'm fine being wrong with that. Like Christian McCaffrey burned me 1 year with it.
Yeah.
But then Christian McCaffrey the next year burned more people than he didn't.
I guess that's a good point though. Of the top 3 wide receivers, does any of them disappoint you?
I mean, it all makes sense. All these rankings make sense right now. But like, I'm not taking Jamar Chase over Saquon, which even Saquon I'd be a little bit iffy on. But I'm not taking him over Bijan. I would move Chase down for the running backs probably.
If I was to look at this and say, of the top 5 guys listed here, who do I play more on a week-to-week basis? Obviously not knowing price, but like knowing the popularity of some of these guys, I think CeeDee Lamb would be my number 1 guy.
Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, but his popularity is going to keep his price high. Like there'll definitely be weeks where I play Justin.
Well, here's the thing with Jefferson. For the last 3 years, we've had a conversation, a very clean conversation. Is Jefferson better than CeeDee Lamb was last year? Is Jefferson better than Jamar Chase is this year's conversation? Is Jefferson better than, who was it the year before that? Either way, the point stands. It's always Justin Jefferson or someone else. It's not 2 other guys.
Yeah.
And that tells me that he's the best guy because he's always the name.
Yeah, I think Addison is a good addition, and I do think JJ McCarthy will add to that team and to the success. I think it is kind of a Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua sort of Adams discussion where it's like, I think I would just rather draft JJ McCarthy and take a chance on the offense for the Vikings just being better. I would get, I'd have an opportunity to get TJ Hawkinson output. I'd have a chance to get Addison output. That way I'm not having to, invest so early in JJ, but JJ is not a bad pick, obviously. I just feel like his popularity at DraftKings, he will always be a pay up. So if he fits into your lineup, then go ahead. But I do think CeeDee Lamb will be a great value early in the season, whether it be best ball, because I do think Dak Prescott will come back and be fine. Maybe he's injured again, but I view that as kind of a Matthew Stafford thing. It's like people are going to always be worried about like the quarterback coming back off of injury, but I just think Dak Prescott and that Cowboys offense, they're going to be behind in a lot of games and need to throw. I'd be perfectly comfortable playing CeeDee Lamb.
I don't want to switch off too early, but I do want to mention we are 5 days away from the first UFL game. So we are about to kick into like real back to our regular UFL stuff, but UFL starts on Fridays now. Is there a way we can see the contest yet for DraftKings?
No, I haven't even looked to see if they have them up yet.
I don't believe it's up. I did look yesterday. It wasn't up, but it could be today.
It is up today. There's at least a tab for it. Yes. So it is up today.
Let me see if I can get it then.
There are contests available, yes.
No free contest.
Nothing big.
Yeah.
Nothing big. Like the big contest is only 20K up top, so they're not even giving us like a 50K to start. Okay.
I was gonna look at. We do get a single entry. It looks like the single entry is 500.
Solid.
I don't remember what it was last year, but I do remember it dropped off quickly. Like within like 3 or 4 weeks, we were at like 200. So at least it's at 500 now. Hopefully it fills. I know there's a lot more content creators talking about the UFL too, and so maybe that will help. I have been paying enough attention. I like some of these guys.
I will say I won't be able to. I work all week this week, so I will not be able to help you build a lineup if this includes Friday's game. So I don't have any guys for Friday that I can help you put in for Friday night.
I also work all week, so like I would love to get some of I will be working late, so like even if we have to do a really late show.
Late show, yeah.
I could do late Thursday. Yeah, I could do.
Yeah, I was about to say if we want to go like 9:30, 10 o'clock Thursday, I can do that.
Yeah, I can also do late Thursday because I'm off at 2 and then I'm off at 9 on Friday. So obviously Friday would be out because the game looks like it starts at 8. Just from a builder perspective, because that's obviously what we'll be doing the most of.
They have no news on some of these players. Like Kellen Mond, is he going to start this year?
Yeah, he was listed as a starter. He looked really good in preseason too. That's the guy I was going to mention.
In order to look at these rosters. We need to go to their sites again and find it. Danny Etling might be the starter this year, which is interesting.
Yeah. Wade Phillips ran such a fast offense that I definitely want to play Kellen Mond. And if he's not like listed the starter, and that's harder to know. Everything I saw from their preseason and their training camp, he looked every bit maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the league. What I was going to ask though is because the information is lacking, and most people may not be used to having like one game and then Saturday and then Sunday. How do you think that affects the lineup build?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm not sure if it will because enough NFL slates were multi-game and multi-day last year. Like it is more like a playoff slate where like you gotta like you're gonna have a Saturday game or two and then some Sunday games. You gotta plan for that.
What I'm very interested in right now is who is everyone going to now that there's no AJ McCarron?
I'm going to be playing a lot of Mond. I know that.
They'll probably gravitate to the name.
I like Max Duggan a lot, especially with St. Louis.
Yeah, he looked good.
He's very talented. I mean, he was a good college quarterback. He got drafted for a reason, and he's got Hakeem Butler still there.
Perez basically says like he's so highly motivated that he basically is using this as a stepping stone to the NFL. Like,
yeah,
he truly thinks if he has one more good year, that he's going to solidify himself for a guaranteed NFL roster.
I mean, see, the thing is, Max Duggan, he has Hakeem Butler still. We know Pearson's good. Now they have Andy Isabella and Denzel Mims as well in that receiving room. They've got a lot.
And Isabella never did reach his NFL potential, but like the speed was there, the athleticism was there. Just like for whatever reason, maybe it was technique. He just couldn't get open against professional, that level of professional. But I expect him to do tremendous at this league. Denzel Mims, for example, could also do very well at this league.
Someone who fell into the NFL but had a lot of chances.
Yeah. And then we know how Butler just uses his size as a wide receiver and kind of a tight end hybrid in this league. Those kind of advantages, I think, will serve us well because we are familiar with this league. And the fact that they go for 2s and 3s, and like we just know how offensive this league can be. I do think that's going to help us out a lot.
I'm very excited for UFL to start.
It'll be good. I'm still big into NBA, so like I haven't dug into this, but I'll dig into this more before I'll dig into baseball.
Yeah.
100% on that.
It's just a more fun watch too. Like I still like watching football. Like I think I've gotten
the game itself is still more enjoyable.
Right. And that's why I think I've gotten to the point where I'm not trying to like convince people to watch it. I'm not trying to convince you to like say, oh, it's as good as the NFL. Like I'm over all of those discussions. And I'm just viewing it as a separate thing that I really enjoy. It's like a sport that I really enjoy.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting, too, that, like, the Stallions basically have the same team. It's pretty much the same exact team as last year, but their starting quarterback has to be Corral. They lose their MVP from last season. I'm not sure about their defense. I'd have to look at the names, but their offense is going to
I still expect them to be, like, one of the top teams in the league. I don't know if
their offense will be exactly the same.
They might.
I mean, that would be 4 in a row for the Stallions if they do it. But they could.
They'll be good.
And we were talking about this when we first went live. DC's head coach stepped down like the other day, like yesterday. He went to college.
Yeah, he took.
So they lost their head coach out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's not great.
And that's who they play the first game. So I'm very interested to see if like the Stallions just come out and curb stomp them.
I do believe they gave their DB coach and their defensive coordinator. He was doing both the position and the defensive coordinating position for that team. They gave him the head coach job. And like Donnie was saying, you can't blame a guy for taking a college job. He obviously, I think, filled the shoes of Eddie George, who took a different job at Grambling State. And so I believe Barlow took a job at Mid-Tennessee State. People can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but like it's a low-level college, but it's an upgrade. But I was telling Donnie, it really just sucks for team morale to like have this upcoming year, have all this like, they don't have as much organization as like an NFL team does when it comes to practice and things like that. So I do think it will affect the team more.
Well, I wonder how much it affects the team and how much is like this league. The point is to make it to the next level, and now your coach made it to the next level. Is that something that kind of inspires the players to play better?
That's a good point.
I know it's a low-level college job, not low-level, but it's not a great-level college job, but he did make it. He financially got a much more secure place.
That is a good point I didn't consider. And I think it just speaks to how good this league is. Like, it might be a step down from the NFL, but it's still a very good league in that way.
And another thing I'm noticing as I'm looking through, Sailors seems to have the backfield of St. Louis all to himself now. Because last year, I know he was splitting a bit. So that's interesting.
See, but I'll even pull up a few names as we wait, maybe Gov come back. But like knowing that we covered this league and knowing how good Butler was and how often they used him, Kirkland's coming back. Like
Canella's back.
Yeah, knowing these guys is a valuable thing. Because there was just so much. Like last year, it got down to like $50 contest. So I think if you stuck through it as much as we did, we could get off to a great start this year.
We always start off really good from our history anyway. Then the pricing.
The real problem. Well, yeah, not only does the pricing, but then you get the real problems of like now that we know who the teams are, second half of the season in the UFL is more of the teams showcasing the other players when possible. So hitting on those is a little harder.
That's a good point. It's almost like a preseason. In the last game, they play it different than the first game. In the fourth quarter,
it's like a reverse of the NFL. The first like 4 or 5 games, they're all trying hard. It's like the playoffs. They know they got to get these games to see where they are. After that, only like 3 teams really try because they're the teams that can actually win the title that year. And every other team is just showcasing their players for NFL jobs or whatever.
And see, I love it because the UFL has really embraced media. They've bought into Twitter and social media. It's kind of becoming more of their beat reporters. Those guys are more engaging. Like a lot of those guys actually follow me or will give us advice or just like have fun with us. I'll be able to ask them questions. The access to those guys is very fun to like watch organically. Now the information's harder to find, and maybe they don't know specifically, but I feel like when we are right about a player, like last year we were right about Durant, one of the running backs that was filling in for Sailor, I believe, on the Battlehawks, and we were right about that. Now we benefited greatly on that week of being right. So there is a give and take where it's like we're going to make some mistakes. Everyone will make mistakes because you think a guy's going to play and he doesn't, or maybe he plays and he just doesn't get the opportunities that you thought. Because it really is a league where it's like touchdowns. Obviously, the NFL is an event sport, so touchdowns are going to set apart. If a guy goes out and scores 2 touchdowns, even if he only gets 20 yards, that's going to be a huge difference maker in a lineup.
Is Durant not around anymore is the question.
I don't think he is. He's obviously was an older guy. He was a French guy, played for the Giants.
He's not old. He's still 26. Like
he's younger.
That's ancient for a running back.
It is ancient. It is somewhere in the middle. It's younger.
Sure, he's not old. He just played with Odysseus and
he
Hercules.
Doesn't have any workload as you would expect, though. Is my point. So it looks like he is done. Yeah, it looks like he's done with football, though. So that was like our big hit last year.
It was, and now he's gone.
That was our most proud hit.
Yeah, but that situation could still arise. We could see a starter go out the first 2 weeks and have a designated backup that we just know is going to play well.
I wanted to say Pearson is a guy who I thought would have played a lot better last year, and it just didn't. So maybe.
Well, he was hurt last year.
Well, that's a good point. He was hurt. They had a lot of competition in the backfield. He obviously has a new quarterback. This is the guy I would go back to because when he is right, he has played very well. And this is where a box score watcher might look at what he did last year and be like, oh, he's not that good.
But his price hasn't like really changed too much to say like.
Which is why I think I would take a chance on it because his price hasn't changed. So he's not going to be like that appealing, fun, cheap option. And you have to rely on his production, and I feel like he could bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, I'd play him over probably Sal Canoa kind of guy.
Yeah. I
think what I'm very interested in is like the new guys, Denzel Mims. I've always loved his talent now that he's with a very loaded St. Louis team. We know they love to pass though. And I think I will be playing Max Duggan just looking at the pricing. That's probably the guy I go with. Maybe Kellen Mond, but Mond's like the same price almost. I imagine.
I can see I'm going to treat it like football. So, like, I haven't dug in too much, but I will later in the week.
Dugan?
Now, I've always been a believer in PMR, though. I really do think some people are going to overvalue. They're going to want to see themselves at the top of the leaderboard. I do think Friday will be overowned. That is a prediction of mine. To be somewhat serious while the kids laugh in the back of the class.
Mm-hmm.
But I truly do. I think some people are going to load up on Friday just because they're like, well, if I get off to a good start, I can feel good about this lineup. I think that would be a mistake.
I think the key really right now is so you have to play some St. Louis, but they're probably not going to be pushed. Unless Houston's significantly better this year, I don't know the moves they've made. But I can't imagine they're going to be astronomically better. This league is too good, I think, for one team to just say, oh, we're awful and now we're good. Especially with the Stallions not losing much, the Battlehawks not losing much. Those are the two teams to beat.
So do you think we need to move off our priors, or do you think like having these priors is a good thing? Like knowing
I think the top three teams are still San Antonio, St. Louis, Birmingham.
Yeah. I believe AJ Smith is his name, the offensive coordinator from the San Antonio Brahmas. I really love that guy. He's aggressive. He's an attacker. And basically Wade Phillips just lets him run the offense. And I just think that offensive coordinator and that offense could work in the NFL. So I just feel like they're leagues ahead of most offenses in the league. And they tend to go for the most like 2-point conversions and things like that. So they take the most chances. I feel like that just breeds very well for DFS.
Yeah. I mean, last year, I don't know if it's going to be exactly the same, but like the top three teams were definitely Birmingham, St. Louis, San Antonio. And then Michigan was not far behind, which Michigan, they won a lot of games based off their kicker, Jake Bates, who is now the Lions kicker. That's a big loss. So it's going to be, I just think it's very interesting this year because Michigan's probably the one team that was good last year that probably could fall.
Yeah. Well, you talked about inspiration. I do think there's a lot of NFL like level talent in this league. And I think, like I said, I won't sell you on whether you should watch it. You should definitely watch it if you enjoy it. But I do think if you gave it a chance, you'd be like, this is more football than this is a better product of football than I realized. I would say that. Gov, we talked about like some of the ADPs in a basketball draft just to show people like the fantasy outlook after free agency, or just to show people what kind of happened in the fantasy landscape. How early would you draft? Are you a guy who would do any drafts before the actual NFL draft?
No, I don't. I don't even think about that until after the draft. Like, I want to know where guys legitimately can land. I'm not trying to guess.
Yeah.
Like, it's already a guess what a player is going to be coming into his rookie year.
Yeah.
To not even know what team and fit he's got to try to get into. I'm already thinking it's a dart throw best ball most of the time anyway. I'm not trying to do that dart throw blindfolded behind the back.
I do think the value though is rookies. It's like trying to project which rookies you think are going to do well. I do think that's like the biggest advantage to best ball.
And I will tell you, Gov, because we did look at a decent amount at it. Travis Hunter is listed as a receiver, so they will have him around.
Yeah, so
that's interesting. That because we did talk about
Travis Hunter being listed a receiver doesn't matter.
That's
where
I'm drafting a guy.
You telling me he's going to be listed and used as a receiver? Great. Is that in New England? Not as helpful as if you tell me it's like New York or wherever. Like, those are completely different situations.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like it does not matter what his position is. It matters where he's playing. And that's the most important thing to me with all these.
But it's just nice to know that we can't. I don't imagine he's going to be drafted way too high. I imagine for anyone to really consider that is smart with it.
Based on value.
But
it all depends on what he's actually going to be used for. Again, like if I think he's going to a team that's actually going to use him as the number one wide receiver, then I could see taking him in the first 10 rounds. As the same way you would take like a Marvin Harrison Jr. last year or something like that, a Malik Neighbors last year. I could see taking Travis Hunter in that kind of range if I think he's going to a team that's going to use him like that. If I think he's going to a team that's going to use him two ways or just mostly at corner, then I know I can't draft him at all.
Yeah. So without knowing that at all, Gov, you're just not going to take him.
Exactly. I would not be able to draft Travis Hunter at all right now. I would leave him undrafted in all my boards.
So what kind
I would do that probably in general, no matter where he goes. But
if I think he's going to like the Giants, where I know he's going to be the number 2 on the other side of Neighbors, or to the Patriots, where he has to be the number 1 wide receiver because you don't have any, then yeah, I would consider it. If he gets drafted by another team that might use him in mixed way, like he goes to Cleveland, I wouldn't touch him in Cleveland.
Yeah, I just think it's like a Marvin Harrison Jr. situation where it's like I like the talent, I like what he could be, but he's going to be overdrafted for what.
I'm not even saying all that. I just I legitimately I know what his skills can be just looking at what he wants to be drafted, where he's played. Now I need to see if there's a situation that merits it.
Yeah, I just don't think his value will ever be at a point where I can take him with any kind of comfort. Like I think I want to. I think there'll be
he goes to like New England where he has to be a number 1 receiver.
Yeah,
third or fourth round easily.
And we looked at all of these average draft positions, Gov, and we were basically like, what do we do with this information? Is this more of a daily fantasy play where it's like, I want to have some of this guy throughout the year, but I want to handpick those weeks? Like,
so that's where I'm hoping he's listed at wide receiver in fantasy. Because
I imagine he's going to be listed at wide receiver. And that's what I was kind of presuming. If he's already got a thing to be drafted, he's got to be on your regular daily fantasy, I'd imagine.
And Donnie, the Patriots are a team that have flirted with the idea of drafting him. So maybe
the Patriots think he's the best receiver in this draft, and they think he's the best corner in this draft.
Right. So my question is, do you think there's any chance he would be a kick returner or a punt returner, or give us any kind of?
No, they love Marcus Jones returning punts, and Marcus Jones does a damn good job at it.
Right.
They already have a system where Marcus Jones gets those packages.
Yeah.
And they play Marcus Jones on offense. So I imagine that Travis Hunter's just going to take that plus some.
I was just wondering because, like Taysom Hill, one of Taysom Hill's advantages is he could be a quarterback, he could be a running back, he could be a wide receiver. There was 3 opportunities for him to play offense.
I don't think we've seen him throwing a pass in like 2 years, though. So can we say that about Taysom Hill anymore? Really?
Yeah, he lined up as a quarterback. One thing is there was offensive positions that he lined up in. All we're talking about Hunter is him lining up as a wide receiver or corner. If he lines up at corner, it helps no one. But yeah, that was my point with like we looked at like Bowers and McBride versus like Travis Kelce, and Travis was a total guy that I would rather play on a week-to-week basis. Like if the Chiefs needed the game, if it's a division game, and I felt like Travis was up for it, versus like I want to invest in Travis all year round. So. That's where we were at with that one. I'm okay keeping this about an hour unless any of you had any other topics you wanted to bring up.
The only thing I'm doing, honestly, if you want to take a look at NBA for the night, I'm building my lineup. It locks at 6, so we can take a quick look at that.
Sure, yeah, we can do that. Is there anything that people should know for this? Like any big names, any like standout, like you have to know this news to be profitable in the NBA?
I mean, it's a 6-game slate tonight. Joker's not playing, so Denver has spread out value. You got to watch for Murray news because, like, Murray sits 2. You play Porter Jr., you play Westbrook, probably play Aaron Gordon.
How are you playing? How are you playing that? Are you playing it like if Joker sits, they're just going to rest Murray? They're going to rest most of their starters, or do you think
Joker's definitely out?
Right. So how do you react to that? Do you think Murray has to play or will play better? Or
No, I've seen what the team does. Like, I don't know if they'll play Murray. I don't know if they need to. He definitely would need to do scoring, but, like, really, because of what Joker is, like, he's the triple-double guy. He does so much. The guys who really get an uptick are like Aaron Gordon, are like Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Guys that can do so much and do a lot on the court themselves. Murray might have to score more, but Gordon and Westbrook have to rebound more, have to, like, have good passing in the lane. Like, they have to do more that way.
Mm-hmm. I've always found it interesting is how do you balance, like, this late in the year, do you, like, eliminate playoff non-contenders? Do you, like, value them more because, like, people will not know their rotation as well? Like, how do you handle that? Like, a team like Philadelphia, who has, Maxi's out, but they're obviously not going to go anywhere. So, like, do you play those guys for value? Do you just, like...
I mean, yeah, I will when they are value, but again, with Philly, like, those guys have been out. So, like, Quentin Grimes is, like, Yabusele, 52. Quentin Grimes is 9K. He's not a value anymore. Jared Butler is 6,200. There's no value in their players right now. There's still a little bit in Denver because Joker's only been out 2 games.
Is there value to playing this late? Because I'm curious. Cause I don't usually play this late in the NBA. Usually what I'll do is the last, like, 3 weeks of the season, I'll kind of shut things down and I'll save up the bankroll for the playoffs when I know.
I mean, there's some value. Like, Boston's giving you some value today with no Jaylen Brown and no Porzingis. But, like, you still need to prioritize paying up for Derek White and Jason Tatum at that point. Like,
maybe this surprises you because I'm so stars and script driven that you think, like, maybe this is the time of year that I would really thrive.
Yeah, Drew Holiday's out too. So, like, this is set up perfectly for if Tatum doesn't nuke, this is like a Peyton Pritchard game or a Derek White game. But they're still like 6-7K. So, like,
recently, I will say,
like, the cheap guys today are going to be on San Antonio and Toronto.
Yeah, Tatum usually plays well against Portland, from what I remember seeing. Like, he's just a bad matchup for them.
You know why that is? You don't want to know why that is. You're going to hate me. I'm gonna tell you.
Go ahead and tell me, Gov.
They're playing in Portland. The reason he plays well against them in Portland is because he's a bitch and doesn't go to the strip clubs with everyone else. That's what you do in Portland. That's why
he's too busy taking care of dudes.
That's why everyone takes weeks. When you take a game off on the West Coast, you do it in Portland.
Okay,
Tatum don't do that.
No, he's not James Harden. We get it.
Okay.
Yeah, you baby back bitch.
Okay, go with what?
Look who went out partying last night. Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, come on.
I mean,
what the fuck?
They rotate days off with the starters now at this point.
Yeah, and who asked for the night off in Portland?
Okay, so a couple things I gotta say quickly. Behind the scenes topic. So I was building out a thumbnail for this show, and I figured if I build it out ahead of time, it'll be better. So I'm putting it through, and before I can save the changes, it asked me if I think this show is appropriate for kids. Gov just answered that question with that response right there. I chose no. I chose correctly. This is off the rails. But in all honesty, that does matter. Like, the mainstream media did talk about how much James Harden loves the strip clubs. It actually does matter. Now, maybe you're digging a little too deep sometimes, but that's what fantasy guys do. We do dig deep. And at this point in the year, Gov, I do think, like, that is valuable information. Whether Donnie thinks it's all jokes or not.
Again, we're at that back half of the season. Teams that will rest guys, especially on a West Coast road trip or an East Coast team, they're going to pick their places to do it. And if you just know the NBA and know the world, you know what Portland is.
Yeah, true. I'm just saying, if Joker's taking the night off, he's more likely to go to like a rodeo or like find a horse.
Exactly. Like Joker's he's just taking like 4 or 5 days here at the end of the season.
He's taking
the
day off in Houston. Yeah. Exactly. He's going to Houston.
This should be a big game. Like I would think this would be a marquee end of the year game. Denver, Houston, 3 seed, 2, or I forget. Is it 3 seed, 4
it's
seed?
It's 3 seed and 2 seed, but if
3 seed, 2 seed.
Denver loses, they drop under the Lakers, I think. So
right.
They'll go to 4.
Like this has big implications, and yet
it is big implications.
That's why I think Murray still plays, but Houston's also back to full streak. So like I would take Houston in that game. Although I could see putting a lot of Denver Houston in your lineup.
Houston's got on a 9-game win streak. They really need this win to like solidify that 2 spot. They're not quite clinched, but they're pretty close to clinching if they win this one. So this is a huge game. You're right.
I've always thought Watson was a really good play, and whenever Joker is out, I always consider that. And being under 4K would be a guy I would strongly consider. They have a lot of interesting, like lengthy, athletic, kind of bouncy guys on that team. So without Joker, I do think that backcourt could look different.
Who is playing center tonight with the Celtics? Just like I haven't looked at the Celtics at all today. So like, who's the Celtics center rotation going to be? Because Horford might be out.
Well, being such a big fan.
No, Horford is in the starting lineup he hasn't officially in, but like he should be. There's nothing on the report. He was at suit around. Like he should be available.
Okay. I was Donnie,
this is more like the Porzingis night off.
No, I know. I was wondering how much coordinating.
They're on the first half of a back-to-back. They play tomorrow.
Yeah.
So like Horford probably sits tomorrow. Porzingis plays.
I haven't looked at this slate at all. Gov is pretty connected, but you're a super fan, and I don't think you'd be biased by the slate. So is there any like Boston guy that you like? This guy, if he was given a chance, could really flash in the last couple weeks of the season?
Oh, I mean, Peyton Pritchard always has big games here at the end when they sit their guards because he's the guard who will take the ball.
It could just be a Pritchard night. I think you're better off just paying up for Tatum just because, like, Brown's out.
My only problem is with Joker out, you're talking about him and Shea are the 2 most expensive guys, and I don't like paying up for those guys normally. Especially when, like, we're talking, there's not any real value. Guys who would be value have been playing and are priced up. So I think I'm more willing to, like, just stick to a bunch of 8K guys instead of getting to a 10-9 Tatum, an 11-5 Shea.
No. Even Sam Hauser, who's more of just a spot-up shooter, is 4K. So it's like you're not even getting, a major value there.
Now.
Yeah, and like if Horford's out, if he was out, then you'd have the value at center. This guy's just a feel-good player. I don't
see, and this is sort of my dilemma. Let's pull it up. I'll show it. Yeah, so this is sort of my dilemma.
Maybe if you can switch over screens to Gov's, Logan.
Yeah.
You have to close yours first.
That's right.
StreamYard's weird now, but that's fine.
All right, let me see if I can help you out.
This is where I've been sitting right now.
We do have some live viewers as well, so if they want to shoot out any comments live, any questions for us, maybe even helping this lineup. Go ahead. So you're definitely, this lineup says Murray sits, right? That's why you like Westbrook?
Yes, agreed.
Okay.
But that's where it's like, now you look at my money, and it can be any position and last guy in.
I do think Westbrook would get some run even if Murray played, but at 7,200.
Oh, no, yeah, Westbrook's been there like 25, 30 minutes a game off the bench guard anyway. And he's been starting when Aaron Gordon's out, and they just go small because of his rebounding. The thing they need with Aaron Gordon out is an extra rebounder, and Westbrook is a good rebounder. All right.
With this, I think you almost just throw in Van Vliet, where it's such an important game, and he's been hot lately. And Denver,
that is actually one of the guys I was looking at. Like the 3 guys I'm actually looking at would be either another Michael Porter Jr. and add in another Denver guy, a Van Vliet and add in another Houston guy, or straight up just down to Tari Eason and add in another Houston guy.
I do like Van Vliet because he ended for the last 3 weeks, so he's ramping back up. He's probably trying to get back into playoff contention, playoff conditioning. I think he probably does need some live reps.
Well, he's been hot the past couple of games. So
I was about to say he came back a couple games ago,
but he missed a good stretch. If I'm not
he did miss a week and a half. Yeah, he didn't play the entire month of February, and then he came back for one game in February, took another week off. Well, 10 days off. And since then, he's played the last 4 games.
And he's played well. And I don't think that praise.
No back, he just came off the thing that worries me is he just came off a really big game that even in his normal set is probably a little higher than what he does. I would expect him with everyone healthy to be a 35 fantasy point a game guy.
True, but he's a perfect. I believe that's one of the last games of the night. He is cheap enough that I feel like even if you got somewhat of a dud night, he's not going to kill your lineup. And if he keeps doing what he has been doing at the high end, he could hurt you if you don't have
and Denver's just so bad without Joker. They are not a good team without Joker.
Now,
it seems like a position where unless you really wanted to purposely fade Van Vliet, he's just too cheap.
My projections would say Van Vliet is the best one, with it being behind him by about 2 points is a tie, basically, of Michael Porter Jr. And Andrew Wiggins of Miami.
Well, I see Christian, like I said, I haven't looked at this slate at all, so I'm giving you some, organic information here, but I see Christian Braun's also questionable. So,
yes.
Do we think he's going to miss?
Gordon questionable too, Aaron Gordon. So, that's...
Because if Gordon, it sounds like you think Gordon's going to miss. If Gordon and Braun miss, maybe then, Porter does reach more value. But I do think you're attacking that game regardless, whether it be Van Vliet, whether it be locking in Westbrook to have a big night. I don't see anything wrong with that.
I'll say he missed the game a couple days ago, but he's had the Q tag on him basically every game. I'm not sure if Christian Braun misses today. Aaron Gordon, I would be more worried about missing.
Yeah. Because he is a veteran where you're they have their seating locked up.
He's also a guy just looking at both of them in their last 10 to 15 games. Christian Braun's missed 1 in his last 15. Mm-hmm. Aaron Gordon's missed 6. Just for rest in that too.
I do like adding someone else to that game though, because you're getting one of the late night hammers. Obviously it's a utility spot. So if you do get late breaking news, you can adjust.
Yeah, see, the late hammer game is OKC and the Clippers. So I actually don't have that. I built more around the early games.
I didn't realize
it's actually 6 o'clock to 7 and then one game at 9.
So
but the 7 o'clock game is the Denver Houston game. So it is kind of a late slate.
Yeah.
It will you will only be able to pivot to that or then pivot to OKC and the Clippers.
We do see that sometimes, but there's not usually that big of a drastic time difference between the last game.
And with that, Shea's gonna play. It looks like everyone's playing. Jalen Williams is out for OKC. Chet
I'd imagine he's out.
Late injury edition, yeah. So probably Chet sits too. So
you're
gonna have Hartenstein. You're gonna have.
I think I might like Hartenstein.
OKC has been sitting their guys the second half. I think they know let's have everyone rested and ready for the playoffs this year.
I think if I was you, I'd go with Hartenstein, then, knowing that Chet could be questionable.
Does Hart even play 30 minutes, though, with that time? I doubt it.
Let me check my projections. I didn't even see Hartenstein in this list. Where is he? Okay, he's right there. But okay, he has again, Hartenstein, Porter Jr., Wiggins. Those are the best guys behind Fred VanVleet.
So it looks like you have a pivot.
I already have Amin Thompson, who's a pivot off Fred VanVleet, to be fair.
That is true.
He's the one who's been playing really well this year and at point. And when VanVleet came back and him and Jalen Green were doing so well was when Thompson was out for a few weeks. So I'm more likely, my gut is telling me to just plug in one of those, just plug in Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, I think
I don't think there's a wrong answer here. It's just kind of you're gonna talk yourself in circles with this question.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's what I mean. Like, I always get to this point. Now, okay, so what I don't usually do then is, before I make this final decision, let me look back at the lineup and just go through each guy and feel how confident I am in each one. So, Pritchard, with all the guys out for Boston, I have a solid he's like an 8 on my confidence level. Definitely there.
I don't like almost paying $6,000 for him, but I get it.
He's gonna start. He's a starter today.
Yeah, I was gonna say I get it because
I know he's not super cheap. He's also not pulling any ownership right now. Him and Derek White are essentially unowned.
So he would help, like, if you decided to eat some Van Vliet chalk.
Yeah, like if I wanted to eat the chalk of Spurs guys, Russell Westbrook.
Right.
Actually, Amen Thompson looks like he's chalkier than Fred VanVleet. But, like, I like that. I like Amen more.
I do too, and I think they can play together very well. They just haven't had that opportunity, whether that be one was hurt.
I'm actually probably a little different because, like, the chalky San Antonio guys are Sochan and Castle. And I'm already playing Vassell instead of Castle.
Yeah.
To get off some ownership.
Which Castle's given you so much defense recently that's why he's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm a solid confidence, like, contrarian Pritchard, but I don't think he'll be that contrarian. Like, he's projecting at 5%. On this slate, with guys who are out in Boston, he'll be 15 to 20.
So you're okay.
Not 25 to 30, but 15 to 20. So, like, I don't think Pritchard's as much of an ownership discount.
How much is that?
I think Vassell is over Castle. I like Amen over VanVleet. Sochan's going to be chalky, but I'm confident with all those plays as being fine. Next one you get to is Orlando Robinson, who he's got to play. Like, it's either him or that Colin Castleton guy who's got to play center for Toronto.
And every time,
who do you think plays more?
Yeah, and every time they've needed to rely on a pure center, they have went to Robinson.
Yeah, I've seen them play Castleton and Robinson and Pirtle when all are available. So, like, it's weird. It's like Castleton, 30 minutes, 27, 24, 40 minutes. Like, is he the guy going to start, or is he only going to get 19 or 13, and it's going to be someone else? Is it going to be Malbo? Him getting 30 minutes here. But will he do anything with it? I'm playing Orlando Robinson because I think he can also get the 30 minutes. Yeah. And has shown to do more with it when he gets it. So, like, I'll take the shot on that.
That's the thing is Robinson's been more your traditional big. Like, he might not be as sexy, but he's more the fundamental guy. Mambo seems more of a, like, boom or bust, but he's very handy from what I've seen. He can get himself into foul trouble.
Yeah. And Toronto sucks so bad. I'll just take anything against it. So, like, Keldon playing good minutes for San Antonio. I'll take a shot on that. So, like, give me my San Antonio stuff against Toronto. Give me Robinson on the other side. There's a good game stack. I almost really just want to fill it out with Denver-Houston.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, whoever, once the injury news comes through officially, you make whatever change you need to make. But, yeah. You're going to talk.
Like, if I see Murray's in, I might switch to Hartenstein or VanVleet.
Do you think people are going to overreact to the Clippers game being such a big difference between the 7 o'clock and 9:30 start? Like, do you think people will overvalue that they got to have a late night hammer in your lineup?
I think the fact that most of the slate locks right at 6 when it's supposed to lock, or when it's in 23 minutes when it locks, that's going to make a lot. Like, there's not much to swap to.
There's not too much wiggle room. Like, that 7 o'clock.
Yeah, you kind of have to have it planned.
Yeah.
And so I think I will have mine planned that way. So, is Kelly going to small forward spot? Yes, he can. So I got to flip those.
Well, I don't want to, drag us on too long, but I do think we fit in a lot of stuff today. We talked some football. We talked about some NFL. I'm very excited for the UFL. I almost forgot that it was coming back so quickly. I've been looking forward to the lineup builder, so I'm glad that Donnie brought that up, and we're able to take kind of our preview look. So that is kind of going to be our UFL hopeful schedule. Is we'll try to give you late Thursday lineups as best we can. So look out for that. We'll try to give you some content for that as well. With that being said, though, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. See you guys later whenever you're watching this. Good night, guys.
Peace out, everyone.
I did record this.